Hello and welcome to the assembly tutorial for the Adventure Gnome pattern. I'm Sarah Shearer from Imagine Landscapes, and this is the most exciting part of knitting a gnome, is putting it together. You may have enjoyed the process so far, but this stage is magical. You're like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. Then you put them together and it's like, oh my goodness, it's a person, it's a creature. And it's so exciting. So we have our body, we have our beard, we have our legs, and these are the arms, this big long one. And we're actually going to start with this. So I'm going to set these other pieces aside and we're going to start with this. Now, the way Gnutmeg is designed, obviously there's lots of leeway for Gnutmeg to be many different ways. But what I want you to see, if you want yours to look like mine, obviously, I've got mine so that the belt buckle is visible below the sort of the mitten hands. So because it's hard with this pattern, with it being a mystery, to make sure that row gauge and stitch gauge and all of that match up. What I know is that your I-cord might be a very different length than mine because of the different needle size we use to achieve stitch gauge, assuming that you did a gauge pattern. But what I'm looking to do is make sure that when my arms hang down, that they are below the belt buckle so that it looks like Gnutmeg is nice and comfy cozy. So if I play around, I want a little bit of fabric of this color showing, and that's about right. So I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of my needles and I'm just going to sort of stick Gnutmeg arm on there. All right, very elegant and pain-free. And then I'm going to attach the first one. We've left the ends on Gnutmeg so that we can sew them on. So we'll thread this one on the yarn needle. This is the one that was the bind off. So there's sort of live stitches still on because we didn't technically bind off. We just threaded through and left them whole like that. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to make sure that that's nice and snug. And then I'm actually going to pierce through that with my needle and making sure that I'm roughly in the same spot as I was, because I don't think I am. You can use the increase lines from your knitting to also help a bit. I think I'm a little too far. Like that. How's that looking? Doing pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to stop bothering so much and I'm going to start attaching. So I've got the needle through there. I'm going to go as close to the brim as I can because this is a rolled brim. This is going to look the best if it's really, really snug up. And I'm going to go under, hope you can see that here. I've gone under 2 legs of a stitch. And I'm going to go do that again. So I'm going to go down, plunge through and go under that. All right. Now I'm just going to pull off. I'm going to breathe because that's secure enough for now. And then we're going to go and we're going to sort of tack on this side and just make sure we like what we've got. Okay, so I'm going to pull this needle out. All right, if we do this, see, things are still looking pretty good. We've got that little belly snuggle look going on there. I'm going to go through the I-cord. I'm going to go under a stitch, and before I do anything, I'm just going to check again. Do I like where that is? I think I do. So we'll go through that once, do the same thing. Pierce through the I-cord, kind of lift it up because we're not attached yet. Go under the same stitch and attach it. See how it's kind of going off to the side? I don't want that. I want that to come up and over the top there. So I'm just going to kind of push it. Come on. There we go. That's better. And it'll get even better as we keep going. So let's see. So if we do this, yeah, things are looking good. So now I'm just going to work and secure this down. So what I like to do is I like to go and do the same thing I was doing, which is to pierce through the center and go to the side. And then we're going to pierce through the center and we're going to go to the other side. my yarn came off. And we do that as many times as we need to make this feel secure. In particular, if you are handing this to a child, the temptation will be to carry this gnome around by this very convenient handle you are creating, and so you want this to be as secure as you can. So I would like you to go down and that way, down and back, and kind of create a figure 8 as many times as you need to feel like this is secure. Depending on how things look, if it's getting too much like that's pinched shut there, you can of course always go down in a slightly different place and change things up. The odds are very good though that your beard is going to cover the tops of the arms, and that won't be a problem. All right, mine is getting really tight in there. So I've got my arm really high up. I have sort of created a little bit of a gappiness there though, so before I deal with my end, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna deal with that. So I push my end, my needle tip over to that side, and then I'm just going to split the plies of the yarn around that hole and travel across that hole. And things are gonna fight me oh so much today. There we go. So I'm splitting the plies on both of those, traveling across that hole, and it just kind of fills in that space. And then you have a couple options. If you are giving this to a child, what I would suggest you do is the following. I suggest you come up right underneath the I-cord, and then using a running stitch between 2 stitches, so a running strand, just go across it. Don't go across it, go through it. Create a loop, go through that loop twice, once, twice, and now, oh, lost my end there. Go through it twice, and then very carefully and gently snug it down, make sure you're getting it nice and tight and as close as you can, and then what you can do is you can thread it right up through the I-cord or down and into the body, whichever you want to do. I'm going to do the I-cord today. And then come up somewhere, pull it taut, snip real close, and it'll pop back inside there. Then go do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll attach the next piece.